This exchange raises a fundamental question. Is the Department of Homeland Security enforcing immigration law or rewriting it through its actions? What follows is a confrontation not over policy, but over legality itself.
Secretary Noem, let's talk about the law. Do you agree that asylum is a lawful pathway to immigrate to this country? Yes or no?
There's an asylum program, yes, in place.
All right. So
It was
immigrants then with
divided.
ongoing asylum applications are legally in this country, correct?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Your question was?
Immigrants with ongoing asylum applications are legally in this country.
There are individuals in this country that have applications that
And they are legally here because it's a lawful pathway, right?
it's a lawful pathway.
Okay, so
And I
if
will-
your department then deports anyone with an ongoing asylum application, you are violating the law, correct?
Joe Biden left us with
I'm not asking about Joe Biden. I'm
1.5
asking you a specific
million
question.
cases
If your
backlogged
department
asylum.
deports anyone
Yes,
with an
the program-
ongoing asylum application,
The
you
program
are
was
violating the
greatly
law. Is that
violated.
correct?
It was greatly violated when they allowed
I'm
1.5
asking
million
you.
people to come
I'm
in and
asking you.
granted asylum applications.
Why are you filibustering?
by
Why can't you
ignoring
answer the
laws.
question? It's a
Because,
simple
Joe,
question.
Your president
If your department
and your secretary
deports
did not
anyone
follow the law,
with an
those
ongoing
applications
asylum
were followed.
application, you are violating the law. Isn't that correct?
The asylum program was
Okay.
broken under the last.
Mr. Chairman, I will reclaim my time. She's not answering the question. But the obvious answer is that yes, if you follow a lawful pathway, asylum is a lawful pathway. If you have an open asylum case, you are here lawfully. But the problem that we are seeing around the country is that you are not following the law. Don't tell us to change the law. If you don't like the asylum system, you change the asylum law. Bring it to us. We'll work with you. I think it needs to be changed. But you can't just decide that you're not going to follow the law, and asylum is a law, and deport people who have ongoing applications. Unfortunately, that is exactly what's happening. It's happening across the street from my office right in New York City. Numerous thousands of people who have come to court appearances, have left them with open asylum applications, have been arrested. And then they've been shipped off and many deported. In September, one applicant was ripped away from his wife and small children after such a court appearance. And then this happened to his wife. Please play the video. No, it's not. It's not this one. All right, it's not this video. Here it is.
I'm yours. Come on, man. Come on.
Now, after this incident, your department issued a statement that said the officer's conduct in this video is unacceptable and beneath the men and women of ICE. Our ICE law enforcement are held to the highest professional standards, and this officer is being relieved of current duties as we conduct a full investigation. 3 days later, you reinstated that officer and you put him back on duty. I sent you a letter and asked you what investigation was done and why was he reinstated. You did not answer that letter. So I'm going to give you an opportunity right here to explain to me that if that officer's conduct was, quote, beneath the men and women of ICE, unquote, why did you reinstate him?
Sir, that investigation was completed. I can give you that investigation and the information that you would like. This is.
Well, I wrote you 2 months ago. Why haven't you given it to me
I'm
yet?
actually surprised that you haven't gotten it. I'm going to ask my staff about that.
Well, you
because
shouldn't
I
be
have
surprised
responded
because generally
to
speaking, you
hundreds
do
and
not
hundreds, if
respond
not
to
thousands
us.
of your letters.
Now, the other problem that we are
Mayorkas, when he had
seeing
this
all
job,
over
didn't
the
respond to letters
country
for years.
is that your officers are wearing masks, are dressed in plain clothes, often going around without identification.
All of our officers are
And
identified.
I'm not asking a question. I introduced the No Secret Police Act to stop this. And we now have 113 co-sponsors so that they will not be masked and that they will identify themselves. Now, you say all of them are identifying themselves. That is not the case because last month in New York City again, the NYPD officers were injured by your masked plainclothes ICE officers after they were called from 911 as residents witnessed your officers pulling individuals out of their vehicles and chasing them down the street. I also asked you what happened there. How were the NYPD officers injured by your officers? And you didn't respond. What's the answer?
Sir, our individual
Gentlemen's
officers
time
are
is
identified.
time has expired.
This exchange between Representative Dan Goldman and Secretary Kristi Noem exposes a growing gap between what immigration law clearly states and how it is being enforced on the ground. What unfolds is not a policy disagreement, but a confrontation over whether the executive branch is following the law at all. From the outset, Goldman narrows the discussion to first principles. Asylum is a lawful pathway created by Congress, and individuals with pending asylum applications are legally present in the United States. Secretary Noem initially acknowledges this reality, confirming that asylum exists as a lawful program. But when Goldman presses the logical consequence of that admission, that deporting someone with an active asylum case violates the law, the Secretary repeatedly refuses to answer directly. Instead, she pivots to criticism of the Biden administration and the state of the asylum system, avoiding the legal question entirely. The refusal itself becomes revealing. If asylum is lawful, and if applicants are legally present, then deportation prior to adjudication is unlawful. Goldman does not ask for ideology or rhetoric. He asks for compliance with statute. Goldman's frustration escalates as he points out that disagreement with the asylum system does not grant the executive branch authority to ignore it. Laws cannot be selectively enforced based on political preference. If the administration believes the asylum framework is broken, the remedy is legislation, not unilateral action. Yet Goldman describes exactly the opposite occurring in practice. Asylum seekers attending lawful court appearances in New York City are being arrested, transferred, and deported despite having open cases. These are not people evading the system. They are engaging with it, only to be punished for doing so. The exchange grows more disturbing when Goldman introduces video evidence of ICE conduct, including the violent treatment of an asylum seeker's wife after her husband was detained at a court appearance. DHS initially condemned the officer's behavior as unacceptable and beneath the standards of ICE. Yet just days later, the same officer was reinstated. Goldman highlights that despite writing to the secretary months earlier requesting details of the investigation, he received no response. The contradiction between public condemnation and private reinstatement underscores a deeper lack of accountability. Goldman then broadens the focus to operational transparency. He challenges the department's use of masked, plainclothes officers operating without clear identification, a practice that has caused confusion, fear, and even injuries to local law enforcement responding to 911 calls. While Secretary Noem insists officers are identified, Goldman directly contradicts this claim with real-world incidents in New York City, where residents mistook ICE operations for kidnappings. The introduction of the No Secret Police Act underscores that this is not a theoretical concern, but a response to ongoing harm. What makes this exchange especially striking is how little of it centers on partisan ideology. Goldman repeatedly emphasizes that if the law needs to change, Congress is the proper venue. What he objects to is the executive branch acting as if it can nullify statutes through enforcement choices. The pattern that emerges is one of evasion. Lawful pathways acknowledged in theory, undermined in practice. Misconduct condemned publicly, excused quietly. Oversight requested formally, ignored routinely. By the end of the exchange, the core issue is unmistakable. This is not about border security versus compassion, or enforcement versus reform. It is about whether the Department of Homeland Security recognizes that it is bound by the law as written. Goldman's questioning exposes an administration that speaks the language of legality while operating outside its constraints, leaving asylum seekers, communities, and even law enforcement officers caught in the consequences of that contradiction.